Hey y'all, Dr. Endora Crawford here, and we're talking about food prepping. So no doubt if you have started your journey to food prepping, if you considered food prepping, you have probably watched a lot of videos, done a lot of research, maybe talked to a lot of people, and it can be really overwhelming. There's a lot of information out there and there's a lot to factor in because everybody is very different. And so I did not want to add to that overwhelm with yet another video, but I did want to kind of at this stage highlight some things that I personally think are really important to consider before starting the food prep process. Things that I think are going to make that process much more focused, much more intentional, and definitely much more efficient. So 3 things I want to highlight, just 3. There's tons of tips I can give, but just 3 things I want to highlight at this time that I think are important to consider. And the first one, most importantly, I think, is to know what your goal is. What is your goal, your overall goal? Why are you food prepping? Why are you considering food prepping? Is your goal to save money? Because you want to cook meals at home? Is your goal to save time? Is your goal to lose weight? Is your goal kind of on that journey of having just a healthier lifestyle? And so if you have been able to identify your goal, that's going to direct everything else that you do. But if you don't identify your goal, then if you maybe are thinking about, I want to lose weight, and then you're not factoring that in to the meals that you pick. And so now you're putting together your fried chicken and potatoes and spaghetti and all the things that are not necessarily going to help you lose weight. So beforehand, you need to just kind of sit down with yourself and just write down what your goals are. What do I want to accomplish with this new habit, this new lifestyle that I am about to embrace? So saving money, if the goal is to save money, obviously cooking food at home is going to be cheaper than eating out at a restaurant every day for lunch or every day after work. But there are some really expensive things out there to even buy and cook at home. So we want to be really intentional. If we're trying to save money, we got to think about things we're going to buy and prepare that are going to help us save money. So that is first and foremost, know what your goal is. Identify that goal and let that goal be your guide for what comes next. Now for the second thing that I think is important to factor, and that's to plan your meals. And so again, if you know what your goal is, that can help you target what type of meals you are going to prepare. So you want those meals to be aligned with your goals, but you also want those meals to be things that you're going to eat, things that you're going to enjoy, things that are going to make the process easier. So you don't want to have these really elaborate meals that are going to take you 4 and 5 hours, because that's not really helping, right? So you want to really plan out your meals. You want to be intentional about what it is I want to eat each day. What are going to be my meats? Or what is going to be my protein source? Now we talked about in the previous video, thinking about each week having maybe 2 meats that you identify. One is going to be for lunch, one is going to be for dinner. Maybe having 2 types of grain or starch to go along with those 2 meats. Maybe factoring a vegetable or 2 vegetables. If you want to make sure that those meals are balanced, you want to factor in some type of vegetable. What kind of vegetables do you need? What are your goals again, right? Do you need to have green vegetables because you need the roughage? Do you need to have colorful vegetables because you want to get your antioxidants and get all your essential nutrients? So you want to think about that And then of course we talked about having fruits and making sure that you incorporate your treat. But you want to plan out those meals. I mean, write them down. Write down exactly what you want each meal to look like, and then generate your grocery list from those specific meals. So now when you go into the grocery store, you are very focused and very intentional about what you buy. We know how it is. You're going to the grocery store and you come out with double what you actually went in for, especially if you don't have a list. That's not saving us money. And the extra stuff we buy probably isn't as healthy as we'd like for it to be, right? So now we're sabotaging. So plan those meals out, be very intentional about them. Use a food tracker if you need to. I use a food tracker every time I consider a new meal. Now I've been using food tracking apps for decades now. So I kind of know what each type of item might give me. But if I'm mixing up a new meal or different combinations, I'm gonna plug it in that food tracker ahead of time before I actually make it, so that I know what it's gonna look like at the end of the day. I don't wanna get to the end of the day, then plug it in after I've eaten most of the meals and be like, oh goodness, my carbs are at 200 grams. Or my protein is only at 60. Oops, and now it's 8 o'clock at night. So I plug those in ahead, like a day before, a couple of days before. I plug them in, I look at the macros, I look at all the full nutritional value and see, does it look like what I need it to look like? If not, where can I make adjustments? So now I can make those adjustments ahead of time, before I go shopping, or before I cook the food, or before I even eat it, right? So tip number 2, plan your meals, be very intentional so that we can stay on track. And then finally, tip number 3, make sure you have the containers that you need to have. Now, that does not mean that you have to go out and buy all these elaborate containers that all are the same sizes and they're all matchy and you have the matching different colored tops and they're all pretty and perfectly sized. If you can afford to do that, if that is in your budget, go right ahead and do it. It makes it a little bit of fun and it's kind of cute to look at. But if you don't have that and it is not in your budget, you don't need it. Use the random different size Tupperware containers that you have in your kitchen, because we all have them in our cabinets. Use them until you're ready to do something different. As long as you have enough to prepare your food. And a lot of times if I don't have enough containers, I will actually package 2 or 3 days, and then I'll put some of the food in a larger bowl or a larger container. And then after those 2 or 3 days, and I'm washing those first 2 days dishes out, then I can package the next 2. So there's ways you can do it if you don't have those containers. Now, again, if you are on the clean journey, like I have been on this clean journey, I have transitioned away from my plastics, and I would have to give you that advice to try to transition away from using the plastic containers and working towards more glass containers or all glass containers if you can. Again, if it's not in the budget, okay, we're not going to worry about it. You're going to use what you have. But if it is in the budget, go ahead and start to make that transition. So that's pretty much it, right? And know your goals, plan your meals according to those goals, and then get you some containers so that when you put that stuff together, you're not scrambling around like, okay, now what I do with all this food I got in my kitchen. Get your containers so you can put it all together and be ready for the week. So those are my tips for now. Like I said, there's a lot more that I could share with you. I will piecemeal it throughout the rest of this month in additional videos. But that is it for now. And good luck. You got this.